Welcome back to Harbor. When Dr. Carolyn McClanahan took her seat aboard a flight from Atlanta to Boston, she found herself seated next to Mitt Romney. She asked Romney if he'd pose for a picture, and he agreed. Then Carolyn tweeted it to her followers. But when she tried to engage the candidate about health care reform, he wasn't in the mood to talk, and that led to this headline in the New York Times politics blog, The Caucus: An aloof Romney in a plane encounter. Dr. Carolyn McClanahan is a former practicing physician who is now the director of her own financial planning company. She joins us from Jacksonville, Florida. Doctor, thank you very much for joining us. I'm not saying I'm overwhelmingly surprised by this, but you were. Tell me what it was like. Were you sitting next to him on a plane? And coach, did that surprise you to start with? Did this big shots riding and coach?
Right. You know, it was very funny because we knew he was getting on the plane, and I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden he's looking at my seat, and there he was. And I'm thinking, gosh, I'm an expert on health care reform, and I'm sitting next to Mr. Governor of health care reform. This is very exciting. You know, I thanked him for running for president because it's a hard job, and you have to put up with a lot. And I also thanked him for, you know, what he did in health care reform in Massachusetts. And he was very gracious and very kind.
And then?
And then he pulled out a USA Today, and I said, nobody's ever going to stump you on what you're reading these days.
Okay, I know, like a Sarah Palin, I get you. Now, let me ask you about, you ventured the question, you were about to talk to him about your ideas about health cost containment, and then what happened?
Well, actually, the flight, we were an hour into the flight. In the whole 2 hours, I talked to him a total of 4 minutes. And I read my medical journals in front of him and then my financial planning journal, so he knew I knew something. So I said to him, I just want 2 minutes of your time. He was wearing earbuds and looking at his iPad. I said, I'm a physician, I'm a financial planner, I read the entire healthcare reform law, and I speak to thousands of people around the country on healthcare reform, and I have the answer to your problem. And I know that was kind of bold, but it's like there are answers out there. I said, and he goes, okay. I said, 25% of our cost in healthcare is on overhead. In France and Germany, it's 5 to 10%. If we could cut overhead to what they have, we would save $500 billion a year. Don't you think people would take notice of that? And then he just looked at me blankly and he said, I understand. And he put his earbuds back in and went back to his iPad. He didn't ask or give me a chance to say, you know, the way we do that is with a single billing system and a nationalized electronic medical record. And so I never got the opportunity to share that part with him.
So what's your, I don't know what to conclude on that. It seems to me normally people like, well, I'm not him, but normally if somebody comes up to me with an idea, because I'm on television, I say, here's my email address, and I'll respond to you if you send it to me, and I'll look at it. But you didn't sense he was even going to look at your idea.
Oh, no. I mean, it was obvious that he wasn't interested. And I mean, I know he has to be so careful about everything he says. And I didn't really expect anything. It would have been nice for him to say, you know, thank you. I'm glad that you're interested in such an important topic. Anything like that. I just felt that he's riding around in coach trying to make himself look like one of us. And I was, 4 minutes out of 2 hours. I don't think I was being out of line just to want to speak a minute. And so that was just a little, it made me sad, actually, for the lack of political discourse in this country. I
understand. Let me ask you this. The Democrats, the people around the president, the handlers, are pushing the story, have pushed the story already, that he's weird. What would you call him? Weird? Distracted?
Oh,
or
no.
Would you call him weird?
I would not call him weird. He was very gracious. People asked for autographs, and he gave autographs. You know, one guy did ask him for a restaurant recommendation in Boston, and he said, I can't give you one. And the guy pressed him a little bit. He says, you'll have to ask somebody else. I can't give him one. I think, he just is very tentative. He's got to be careful about what he says, so he says nothing. Yeah,
well, next time, better luck. Maybe you'll sit next to somebody else sometime. It'll be more interesting. I understand what you tried to do. You tried to do the right thing, which is share your expertise. As a citizen, you did the right thing. Anyway, thank you, Carolyn.
Well, thank you.
McClanahan.
And I look forward to your book, by the way.
You mean the one called Jack Kennedy, Elusive Hero? I like the way you work. Thank you, Doctor. Let me finish, by the way, with the big problem for Republicans and Herman Cain as he implodes. That wasn't planned, by the way. You're watching Hardball, only on MSNBC, but it was delightful.